All right, I've decided that the skies here in downtown North Central Tucson are just not worthy of a 6-inch scope. Might as well do longer exposures with a 3-inch. It's easier to do, and I'll also be doing them based on bringing out the laptop computer and setting it right up so I don't have to worry about running back and forth between the instrument and the laptop. So I will have a direct connection from the ZWO imager, which is now capped off, to keep the dust of the desert out of it, and the laptop. And there is a connection. You just plug in 12-volt power there, which I'll have available through a battery, and you run a USB 3.0 connector. It says in, but that's not the case. That's the out. And you run it into the laptop on any port, and it'll directly, as long as you have the ASI Studio software installed, you will be able to control the telescope locally rather than remotely, and that'll just be fine with me. Now, here's the real issue of the day. I had to figure out how to interface the ZWO system, which was previously configured to interface with the Skywatcher 150 Quattro Newt, El Quattro, and I had to reconfigure things in order to get it to work with the pup. And let me show you what's involved in it. Okay, so you leave the visual back from the pup, you remove the diagonal that's used for eyepieces, and then you insert this collar here, which then along, I believe, with another collar, and I will show myself and you for future reference, and you, anyone watching this, how to do that in a moment. But anyway, the key was I was looking around for an adapter to go into the ZWO unit when I didn't realize there had been a collar screwed into the ZWO unit to allow it to be interfaced with the 150 El Quattro. And so I spent at least half an hour trying to find the right components to do so, and then I realized, hey, there is something that will screw in. It can't reach the threads in the ZWO, but maybe this collar unscrews. So I'm going to take this apart now and then show you the component parts for future reference. First off, notice this M42M, M42, male, female, 2-1L connector does not slide into the visual back. What it does is it threads in. Good catch, Jeff. All right. So obviously you remove the visual back that is used. Well, when you take the eyepiece out, typically what I use is a Barlow. This is only a 400mm short tube 80. So I typically use a diagonal that I have a Barlow connected to get more gain in the seeing, unless of course I want to go to wide field views. So notice the thread pattern there and the thread pattern there in male 42mm, female 2-1L adapter. Now I'm going to take this over here and we're going to see how this assembles to the ZWO imager. Now, okay, I have a bunch of other components here. They're used for various purposes. And I want to make sure that I have documented them well. Every one of these components is to some degree threaded. All right, now I do not want to leave the ZWO imager exposed to atmosphere very long because it'll deposit dust. So let's turn it on its side and put it inside its sleeve. The ZWO imager is now nested inside of its sleeve, but dust can still enter from the front. Now the reason you want it in a sleeve is because it has cooling fins inside. The ZWO imager will go down to, I believe, about minus 20 degrees freezing. I'm not sure if that's centigrade or Fahrenheit. Probably centigrade. Anyway, 10 degrees and 20 degrees centigrade. I typically operate at 10 degrees centigrade below, minus 10 degrees centigrade. All right, let's take a look at some of the other adapters. Now, I've already removed the entire unit this screwed in, this M42 unit screwed into the visual back of the ST80, which is only designed to handle, by the way, 1¼ eyepieces. Alright, I just unscrewed the M42 unit from the actual ZWO imager unit right there. See, this thread's in there and unscrewed. I was expecting this, by the way, to unscrew from that, but let's leave it at this, unless I discover another time that I have to separate the M42 from this collar here, this threaded collar here. But anyway, so this baby came out of the inside of the ZWO imager by threading numerous times, lots of rotations to this baby. So let's set it over here. So far, once again, this went into the visual back of the ST80, and this goes into the receiver, the collar of the ZWO unit. All right. Now, that's how you would adapt to an 1¼ eyepiece telescope. But we have to be able to adapt this once again to a 2-incher because the image flattener associated with El Quattro, the 150mm short focus newt, requires a 2-inch back. Here, once again, here's our lens. You can see it's rectangular inside there, and we don't want to get much dust on it. Now, there is another collar that has to be installed on the ZWO unit. I believe it is the 16.5mm collar that I am showing right here, but let me confirm that by screwing it in. But now we have screwed in, threaded in the 16.5mm collar, and I do believe this will allow me to adapt directly to the field flattener. But I have to confirm that. I have to go fetch it out of the other telescope. So this went back in, and this is what confused me before, because this does not thread into that. See that? This has to thread directly into the ZWO unit in order to interface with the visual back of an 1¼ visual back of the ST80. Okay, I've now confirmed that the M42 male-female unit 2-1L does not need to have the collar that's associated with doing 2-inch eyepiece based focusing units. So it can stay with the field flattener and remain with the 6-inch newt. This unit here, however, can stay with the ST80 because I do not believe I need it for any other purpose but to adapt to an 1¼ eyepiece. Okay, here we have the f4.5 field flattener, and I assure you, on an f4 Newtonian system, you desperately need one of these things. You can see the lens is already collecting some dust. I got to be careful about that. Clean it up. You can see the threaded end here and the unthreaded end here. This drops into the 2-inch visual back of the f4.4 Quattro. Then it will thread in to the ZWO unit right here, which I'm about to do, and then take apart again because I intend to image this evening and probably for the rest of the time here in central Tucson, only using the ST80 because I can push the exposure time up and I will get better image quality, equal image quality to using the 6-inch at lower exposure times. I'll be able to use the 80mm at longer exposure times. That's my thinking. Okay, I just threaded in the field flattener at 4/5, not 4.5, I'm sorry if I said that, at 4/5 or 80% field flattener reducer into the ZWO unit. And I had to do that by installing the 16.5mm adapter that has the thread pattern needed internal to the ZWO unit as well as the external thread pattern needed by the field flattener. Alright, now I got to convert back. So, I don't recall whether I need this for the ST80. If not, it will remain with the field flattener on the El Quattro 150 newt and therefore they'll be associated constantly for future use. Do not expect to ever really use the f4 Newt for eyepiece astronomy unless I want really wide field views. Most of the time I'll be using the SD80 or the very fine Skywatcher 150 ED, which will give superb views of all kinds of studies, but not perhaps have enough aperture to do deep sky eyepiece astronomy on its own. Okay, so now what I'm doing is taking the M42M male-female 21L unit, screwing it back into the visual back of the ST80, where I will be using it this evening. Now ideally, yeah, and it did turn out that way, look at that. So I've got the USB out that feeds into the laptop, along with the ASI Studio applications, plus the power that goes in for the cooling system, right there, lined up beautifully. You can see the scope sweeping upwards, and then it points almost due north based on what I will do this evening. And this will give me a chance, by the way, to check how well I collimated the Quattro, because the ST80, I have taken a lot of time to space the primary achromatic lens and get everything well collimated. So if it's anywhere near close to Polaris when I check it out tonight, that will be a very good thing. Now, one last thing I need to do is put the cover on the ZWO unit. Okay, so in sum, I still have a few leftover parts. I do believe this is the 2-inch visual back adapter for the ST80, and I do believe this is some kind of an adapter for the El Quattro 150 Newt. This is a threaded cap. I'm not sure where it goes to yet. Here's another adapter. I'm not sure where I'm using that. And of course, I've got a standard lens cap. This size typically goes on the bottom of an eyepiece. So let me move on. And we'll call this Carpe Diem because it is sunny out here in the